Hey, you possum peeps! Today is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. You're watching the Weekly Paw. Hi, my name is Sean Patrick Hillman. I'm the editor-in-chief and co-publisher of Pet Lifestyles magazine. Yes, we are up a few days early this week because of the Thanksgiving holiday. This time of year, as wonderful and as amazing as it is, can also be wrought with visits to the emergency room, both human and animal alike. So it's that time of year when I have to remind everyone about what to do and not to do with respect to their pets. This year's tips come from our possum friends over at Best Friends Animal Society. So, scrap giving scraps. Too much fatty, rich, or simply new foods can upset a pet's stomach. It can even cause pancreatitis, which is, or can be rather, life-threatening. Encourage guests, because, there's always that one guest that wants to give your dog or your cat something from the table. So try and prevent that. I've typically found that nominating someone, if you have guests over for Thanksgiving or any holiday, I've typically found, because I'm so busy running back and forth to the kitchen or just trying to take care of our guests in general, I've typically found that if you nominate someone who understands pets and what to look out for, nominate them to just keep an eye on your dog or your cat to make sure that they stay safe and healthy during holiday entertaining. Now, there are a couple of ways to mitigate this. If you don't have someone, you can ask guests to not treat your pets. If they're hell-bent on doing it, hand them a couple of treats out of your treat pouch or whatever it is that you dispense treats to your dog. Another alternative is a fun toy instead. Bad to the bone. Poultry bones can break up or splinter in a pet's stomach and be deadly. So dogs and cats should never be allowed to gnaw on them. Instead, bones should be discarded in a closed trash can immediately. All right, let's dive into this. The reality is, we're talking about turkey. It's obviously Thanksgiving. The reality is that any poultry bone should never, ever, 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 ever be given to a pet. As I said before, they break up or they splinter. They can end up cutting through the lining of the stomach and the wall, can create some other problems. The only kind of bone I have ever given to my dogs is a soup bone from a butcher or a frozen bone from a pet store that's got bone marrow in it, that kind of thing. The reason for this is very simple. Soup bones are very dense and they're very strong. They tend to be from, the top of the legs of a cow, those kinds of things, where there's bone marrow and other elements that dogs can dig out and scrape the bone with their teeth in order to try and get all the remnant meat off. That is a great energy user for a dog. It's a great distractor. For cats, typically you don't give a cat any bones. So typically just giving them treats and things like that will help in terms of keeping them distracted. Avoid a dessert disaster. Pet parents should remember chocolate is toxic for dogs and should be kept out of touch. Other common food items that can be poisonous to dogs include onions, raisins, and grapes. Now remember, onions and raisins are typically used in things like stuffing, green bean casserole, sweet potato souffle, that kind of thing. Avoid it like the plague. You're going to end up in an animal ER if you don't, okay? Now, the reason why I bring this up is there are so many folks out there, as well-intended as they are, who just do not understand that dogs do have sensitive stomachs. You see in cartoons, and we joke all the time, a dog could eat a car. Kylie and I joke that once upon a time, Snickers, who was our first dog together, she once ate a mirror ball, and her poo was literally disco time for about a week. I'm being facetious, but you understand my point. Yes, dogs do eat an inordinate amount of things that they shouldn't, especially left to their own devices. But as humans, as people who watch over these pets, it's our responsibility to keep them safe. Now, speaking of dessert, very quickly, pumpkin pie is the number one dessert for Thanksgiving. Do not feed that to your dog. Oftentimes, especially in the last 5 years, bakers and manufacturers will use sweeteners inside the pumpkin pie, and it's not necessarily always on the label. Now, those sweeteners could include xylitol, which is very, very bad for a dog. So you want to make sure you avoid giving them those foods at all costs. If you want your dog to enjoy pumpkin alongside while you're eating pumpkin pie, get a can of pumpkin puree. As long as it's pure pumpkin puree, you're totally fine. But added sweeteners and things like that can certainly make for a tragic holiday. Keep it clean. This is a no-brainer. After a day or days of cooking, food-flavored items may be too tempting to curious pets. If ingested, these can cause injury to their stomachs, just like we said before. Make sure prep items are properly discarded as soon as they are no longer needed, and keep other potentially harmful items on surfaces and out of reach. So let's pull this apart for a second. Just like with humans, you need to make sure you're keeping your countertops sanitized, cleaned. You got to make sure that any crumbs and things that fall on the ground, you pick those up right away and discard them in the garbage. For all of the reasons we talked about a little while ago, you got to make sure that your kitchen and your prep areas are cleaned. The minute that a dog can get their hands on something they shouldn't, they're going to. And they're going to eat it. They're like little children. And you've got to be mindful of that. And I know it's hard because you got guests over and you want to have some fun while you're also entertaining, that kind of thing. So, as I said, the one tip I've found that always helps is nominating a guest who understands pets to keep an eye on them while you're busy running back and forth to the kitchen and keeping your guests happy. Now, every year, folks ask me, and I said this last week, who I'm going to support for Giving Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, this coming Tuesday is Giving Tuesday. It's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, wherein nonprofit organizations marshal as many resources and influence as they can to drive donations back to their cause. It is their Black Friday. It's the one day of the year everyone agrees to donate stuff or money or items, whatever it may be, to the cause. This is especially important in animal rescue and advocacy. Now, to answer your question, I put my support behind our possum friends at Best Friends Animal Society. I choose them for their life-saving programs, their advocacy, and their goal of a no-kill nation by 2025. Now, yes, I am biased. That is true. Julie Castle, their CEO, I just absolutely love her to pieces. She's on the cover of our November issue. Everything that they do is just so incredible. And there's a couple surprises coming over the next week that I'm going to talk about on next week's episode where you're just going to be blown away by a stunt that they're pulling to raise awareness of the need for adoption. So check that out next week on the Weekly Paw. Besides, how could I possibly resist such a possum mission? No kill nation by 2025. And I think they can pull it off. As this Friday is the official kickoff to the holiday shopping season, I'm going to be giving you guys some gift ideas and suggestions every week until Christmas. These are gift ideas not just for your forever friends, but also for the pet lover in your life. Now, last week, I talked about how Kylie and I love to incorporate Briorio, Pet Lifestyles Magazine's spokesdog and our forever one, into our Christmas morning gift-giving rituals. Now, we used to do the same thing for Rolo and Snickers. We basically wrap gifts for Brie and have her unwrap them alongside us. Now, as she tears the paper from the gift, we throw it out. Especially these days, you just don't know what kind of chemicals are being put into these papers today. And you don't want your dog to swallow them. Now, look, if they swallow a shred or 2 or 3 or even 5, okay, I'm sure it's going to be fine. But overall, the ink that's used on these papers, a lot of them have lead in it, that kind of thing. You got to be very careful as to what you're doing with that paper. Now, we also, and we're very guilty of this, of taking the wrapping paper, crumpling it up to a ball, and then throwing it down the hallway for Brie to go chase. There's nothing wrong with that. But make sure that you're following that crumpled paper and that he or she isn't chewing on it and then swallowing it. You want to throw that out as soon as they're done playing with it. Same is true of a cat, okay? So just be mindful of what they're doing with the paper once you've thrown it down the hall or once they've pulled it off the gift. So this week's suggested gift ideas for Holiday come from our friends at Big Spoon Roasters. They've got their Big Spoon Roasters Wag Butter. Now, this stuff is like puppy crack, apparently. Dogs love it. Wag Butter is handcrafted in small batches with fresh roasted peanuts, pure banana, and ground golden flax seeds. The company describes their banana flax Wag Butter as peanut butter for dogs as a canine superfood, perfectly suited for dogs' unique nutritional needs. You know, peanut butter is a very difficult thing to buy for a dog. I know that sounds crazy. But again, with the kinds of chemicals and ingredients that manufacturers are using these days, you must be vigilant to check the nutrition label to see if there are ingredients that they can't eat, like xylitol. Xylitol is becoming more and more common as a sweetener. And the fact is that it's just really not good for your dog. So, something like Wag Butter is a welcome change. And if you go onto their website, the URL has been on the screen for a little bit now. If you go onto their website, you'll see all of the stuff that they make and how they make it and all of those things. Whenever you purchase a peanut butter, please make sure you do some research just to make sure that your dog is safe. Next up is Whole Elk Antlers by Farm to Pet Treats. Now, I've known this company for a bit. I have not had time to look into them until recently. And because Bree is allergic to chicken, we can't give her a lot of their treats because they've got these little chicken treat discs. They're disc-shaped. I have friends who absolutely swear by these treats. And these are people I trust. These are people I love. So by all means, if your dog doesn't have poultry sensitivity or things like that, get their treats. I'm choosing the Whole Elk Antler for a whole lot of reasons. Now, antlers are the perfect chew for your forever friend. And Farm to Pet's wild gathered antlers are long-lasting and all-natural to keep your pup entertained for hours. So I talked about soup bones before. Elk antlers are a great alternative to that. It's nutrient-rich. They're non-splintering. It's a safe dog bone choice. And as a byproduct, they are great for aggressive chewers to keep your dog's teeth clean and healthy. So what do I mean by that? Cleaning dogs' teeth is a pain in the ass. We've all been there. We've all done that. When you look at something like an elk antler, it's got natural grooves in it, things like that. Dogs will literally gnaw at it, which cleans the tartar off of their teeth. So it helps to keep their gums healthy as well. You know, Bree loves elk antlers. I'm actually waiting for one from Farm to Pet now. I'll let you know how that goes. But from what everyone has told me, and when I say everyone, I mean friends of mine. I don't mean people on the street or people out in the space. I mean people I know and I trust. They swear by this product. They swear by this brand. Give it a shot. I can't wait to see what they come up with next. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that we do have our holiday gift guide in the November issue of Pet Lifestyles Magazine. So head over to PetLifestylesMagazine.com to check that out. Now, welcome to this week's Furry Friday, or Wednesday, if you will, since we are a couple days early because of the Thanksgiving holiday. Now, this is when I talk about adoptables from various shelter and rescue organizations, and I'm only doing one organization per week. These adoptables are available immediately, and I'm also going to talk about the organizations that are currently caring for the pets I talk about. So this week's Furry Friday is thanks to our friends at Pups and Pals. It's a rescue out in Orange County, California. First up is Mabel, a 3-year-old female Chihuahua Dachshund mix. She has short legs and a thoughtful face like a Dachshund, ears like a Chihuahua, and a very calm personality. She's happy to follow you around and explore, and seems to be a chill little girl who enjoys playing with her toys. She gets along with other small dogs and is good on the leash. She's always ready to go for a walk when you take out the leash. She's great at communicating her needs, whether it's time for playtime or a potty break. Mabel is house trained and a nice, easy house dog. You know, the pop cultural norm, the stereotype is that Chihuahuas are yippy, annoying little dogs. I got to tell you, I know a lot of Chihuahuas who are exactly the opposite. They're very docile, they're very relaxed, they're very sweet. So don't always buy into the stereotype, folks. This dog, Mabel, sounds like a winner. Next up is Harley, an 8-month-old female English bulldog. She's a sweet, wiggly, loving girl who loves tons of attention, affection, and love. She's good with dogs, cats, kids, but since she's a heavy little girl, kids over 8 would probably be best. Harley was owned by someone who wasn't quite ready to care for a dog, and the child in the home was afraid of dogs. She needs a place where everyone loves a dog who is very much in your personal space. Harley came to them with double cherry eyes and had to have surgery to repair them. One eye looks great. The other was improved with surgery, but sadly not 100%. So she still does have a cherry eye on one eye. So let's talk about this for a second. Smush face breeds. Bulldogs, pugs, Shar-Peis, French bulldogs. They're tough breeds to take care of. Incredibly worth it. Please don't get me wrong, as I grew up with pugs. And I wouldn't change 1 second of my time with them at all. My parents still have pugs to this day. And, you know, the old adage is you don't own the pug owns you. It happens to be 100% true. So when you get into English bulldogs more than the other smush face breeds, they require a lot of grooming, a lot of care to make sure they don't get skin infections in their folds, that kind of thing. Totally worth it as a breed to have. Fantastic. Very smart, incredibly loyal, very sweet, very loving. So just be mindful of the idiosyncrasies or certainly the parameters with different breed types as you're going to adopt. You always want to make sure you understand what you're getting into before you adopt a pet, because the worst thing you can do is return an animal to a shelter or a rescue because you didn't realize there was somebody in the house that has allergies. Or if you live in a place like New York, you didn't realize your building had breed restrictions, like things like that. So return rates tend to go up when people don't pay attention to that stuff. So do your research before you adopt, please. That way, everybody is happy, safe, and healthy. Now, let's talk about the rescue, Pups and Pals. You know, I had heard of them. I hadn't looked into them until recently. The URL is on your screen. They're made up of a small group of volunteers in the Orange County and LA County areas who focus on rescuing dogs and cats in need and placing them into appropriate homes. They do have an occasional pocket pet or a bird, but they focus primarily on dogs and cats. They are, in fact, classified as a 501c3. Now, they typically rescue pets from county shelters, but also accept those surrendered by owners who are no longer able to care for their pets. They do not have a kennel, so they're not able to accept walk-in visits, that kind of thing. Their rescues are typically in foster homes, which is awesome. Now, I bring all of this up for a very simple reason. Every week I talk about the organization that takes care of the animals that we're discussing. And it's important to promote those organizations for a whole lot of reasons, particularly this kind. They use foster homes to house their pets while they're trying to find adopters for them. They need volunteers badly. They need donations. It's a very tough road to go down. But Pups and Pals seems to be going down it very well. So they're a responsible rescue. They're a nice set of folks. Clearly, they love their charges. So do what you can. Please support them by volunteering, donating, adopting, or fostering. Now, there's another simple way that you can help them. Share this video. The more people know about rescues, the more people know about adoptables, and the more that we all chip in together as a community, the more animals we can save. Thanks, Pups and Pals, for all that you do. Lastly, here's this week's TGI Furry. Every week, I pull memes from the internet to end the episode with a smile or a laugh. And I certainly hope I've been able to do that this week again. From everyone at Pet Lifestyles Magazine and our sister publication, New York Lifestyles Magazine, we hope you have a very happy, safe, and healthy Thanksgiving. Stay pawsome, folks. I'll see you next week.